Hello, everybody, and welcome to Every Day's a Train Wreck. And your conductoress, Marley Major. How are you guys? I'm so glad to have you back and listening to the show. And I have, as Los Angeles is burning down in the fires, I'm very glad to have two very old, close friends with me. And I promise you this is going to be very exciting since the whole pre-talk had to be about, are we using real names or not? So when the show prep involves, are we using real names or not? We're in a good spot. So Nils Grevillius is with us, and then the Mr. Spaghetti Western himself, Joe Cornet, award-winning everything, is with us. So gentlemen, welcome. And who wants to start with the backstory and how we all know each other? Because it's good. And if you don't want to, I'm happy to. So say hi first.
And Marley, why don't you guide us through that? And then we'll go.
I think that's a good idea. Okay, so I'm scared to say how long I've known Nils. How long have I actually known you? I mean, it feels like 400 years. Oh, there you go. Okay, so since 1993, I've known Nils, who is not only the most amazing private investigator, he is a dumpster diver extraordinaire. I have repeatedly tried to convince him that I should be able to come and work for him, and he has repeatedly said absolutely hell no, probably a very smart move on his part. And then Joe Cornet, you guys know, if you haven't listened to that previous episode, you must, because it was all about how Joe has made magic in the movie business when people can't even freaking get a YouTube video up. And Joe has the most amazing book. Joe, show it to us again, please. It's available on Amazon, right?
Also barnesandnoble.com.
Oh, barnesandnoble.com, excuse me. And A Prayer for the Damned, Joe Cornet. God, that is a good freaking photo of you.
And it might be even better on the back there. So.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
A few hard copies are strewn about various Barnes and Nobles throughout.
Okay. And autographs, Mr. Cornet will give autographs, and those will be held at the Chop House on Thursday nights, the Royal Chop House in Pasadena.
I'm happy to do that.
But now here's the deal. All of us know each other. And just like in Pasadena, everybody is entwined and knows each other, et cetera, et cetera. So did I lead up enough for you to jump into why we're going to talk today? Because when Joe and I were on the call, well, actually, now this goes back to Clippers Christina. So if you guys didn't listen to the call with Christina Arobio, Christina Pasadena, who was a former Clippers girl, and that started on us this whole thing about this Rose Queen in Pasadena who was stalked by the Mexican mafia, was it, Nils, or the Russian mafia? And then all kinds of things transpired. But one of you jump in, because then I said, listen, I'm going to do a follow-up.
I'm going to tattle a little bit, not badly, on Marley and I were having lunch perhaps 2011.
Oh, God. Now I am afraid. Okay.
And we were at Chipotle in La Cañada.
Okay.
And
Joe, I am scared. Just for the record, I am scared where this is going to go.
I'm not going to embarrass Marley ever. She's my friend.
Okay.
And I looked over Marley's shoulder and she asked me, so who are you looking at over my shoulder that's more interesting than me?
Yeah.
And I said to her, Marley, no one is more interesting than you, but it is not every day that in Buttontown, La Cañada, that we spot an adult film star with her husband and children having lunch.
Oh, I forgot.
And she says to me, oh, well, that's obviously some prep school mom. And you are mistaken. There's no possible way that that is an adult film star.
And when we're saying adult film star, just so that we're clear, I mean, we are talking full porn. And if talk about award-winning producer over there who will chime in a minute, this chick is literally like award-winning at Porn Star of America. I mean, keep going.
So Marl St. Charles challenged me to identify, well, if you know who this person is, tell me. And I uttered the name. And Marley, being quick with her iPhone, whipped it out and did a quick searcherooski.
Yep.
And voila, the detective was correct, no?
Yes, you were. And you did not arrest the film star at Chipotle, but you did arrest someone who was up to all kinds of shenanigans, which I think our audience is going to find absolutely positively freaking fascinating, because you cannot believe this stuff is true. Okay, so tell us the story, Nils. Let's go back and let's start at the beginning, because we have a Rose Queen, and we just having had the Rose Parade. We have a local beauty queen who is absolutely amazing. I think is a Ford model on top of it. And she is married to one of our very good friends. That part, maybe we can leave out her name and his name. And however, decides she is going to engage with the gentleman of whom we will speak right now. Right, Nils?
Well, okay, so
that's correct.
The most dangerous thing about a psychopath is his ability to mimic a charismatic normal.
Okay, so this is a guy that we would all see out. All of us knew about him. He would be at all the restaurants in town. He did run into my friend's mom's car at one point and trash it. But he would drive around in this Jaguar with this cigar kind of half hanging out of his mouth and kind of a very odd twitch.
Yes.
Right?
He looked like Tarzan, the 1980s version of Tarzan.
Right.
And he was always driving around in an expensive car that he didn't pay for.
Ooh, I didn't know that. Okay.
And he was always wearing expensive tailor suits that he had stiffed the tailor for.
Oh, I forgot about that too. Yes, that's right. He was always in suits.
He did, if I might interject, he did have a pseudo sponsor for a while.
And who was the pseudo sponsor? The Rose Queen?
No.
Oh, who was the pseudo sponsor?
Well, this is going back a number of years before the Rose Queen.
Okay, right? So who was the pseudo sponsor?
To the late 90s.
So this guy, I didn't realize he'd been, I guess I should have. He's been at it for a long time. Okay, so was the pseudo sponsor a male or female?
Female.
Okay. And she was dating him, or she was just a sugar mama, or what?
I'm not sure how to describe that. Nils, you want to take that?
Yes. She was 20 years his senior at least. She was part of the Jeanette crowd, the Kent cigarettes and teacher's scotch, probably class of 59 or 60 from high school. Okay. Wealthy family from the Midwest and, reasonably successful realtor and very attractive.
Oh, I forgot about her. She was dating him. She was crazy about him, wasn't she?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And they dated for how long? Oh my gosh, that's right. And she was, oh my gosh, now I totally remember this. Really pretty, really normal. I didn't know she smoked Kent cigarettes, but I guess that's an addition. Nils, how long did they go out?
Well, okay, so probably 94 or 95 after the wife whose teeth he knocked out divorced him.
So he was married. He doesn't have kids though, right?
Hard to say.
Okay, so this gentleman that at the moment, till we decide to make a reveal, if we decide to, we're just going to say his initials are BH. So BH...
He knocks her teeth out in the cottages at the Ritz-Carlton.
Of course. It always got to happen. So, okay, formerly the Huntington Hotel, for those of you who are familiar with Pasadena.
Now the
okay,
Langham.
The Langham. Now, so he knocks her...
If you absolutely have to knock a girl's teeth out, do it there.
Why did he knock her teeth out again?
They were having a discussion, I think, Marley, and it didn't go his direction, right?
Okay, all right. And it wasn't over you, right? No.
I can state emphatically that I never plumbed the depths.
Okay, so he knocks the teeth out at the Langham in the cottages. The cops pick him up, right? And then he posts bail, or somebody posts bail, and then you get him.
The check that he wrote for the bail premium bounced, and so the bondsman called me up and asked me to put him straight.
Okay, so you're basically like a dog the bounty hunter / dumpster diver to the stars kind of when you need to be,
Totally.
right?
I don't have the long hair and good looks of Mr. Chapman, thank you.
The good looks you absolutely have. So you arrest him, and is this the first time he is aware of you on the scene?
Correct.
Okay, so you show up, and where'd you arrest him and how?
I arrested him at the Langham.
He was back at the scene of the crime? Was he checked in under his name, or how did he end up back at the cottages?
I can't even remember now. I mean, they've been...
Well, he lived there, did he not?
Well, sort of. BH lived there, and that's where I rounded him up. And
He goes back to jail for how long?
probably a day until somebody else made bail for him with a check that wasn't neoprene.
Okay. So then he's done with the wife. She has no teeth. Now enter this realtor, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Well, he in the meantime picked up a felony case for loan fraud working at Glendale Federal Bank.
Right. Because he was kind of in some kind of mortgage situation. So does he picks up that charge, but were you involved in that?
Well, only to the extent that one of the victims, he would do like a pre-funded loan thing where you need to borrow $500,000. Well, you bring him 1% in advance and he'll see what he can do for you.
Got it.
You know, if you're in Mexico, I mean, that's expected, right? But this is
Yeah.
Pasadena.
Right. Yeah.
He winds up getting scooped up by the sheriff's office for that. And I was working for one of his victims and put the arm on him to make restitution. And that
Again. So he sees you coming in as now, oh, brother.
So to make a very long story reasonably short, he was a one-man crime wave of mortgage fraud, bounced checks, unpaid bills, living in a house that was vested to a man that he claimed was dead, with the mortgage underwritten using George Harrison's death certificate, like Edna May, who was the great aunt of the man to whom the house was vested, who was allegedly dead, who was actually in China, and all this
Not
stuff.
to mention a wife beater. Okay. So
Well, that's George Harrison, the Beatle,
Right, exactly.
who had at that time been dead for a number of years.
no, are you kidding me? He was trying to say it was that George Harrison?
Yes, he found.
I thought you were just saying it was it just was a coincidence. He actually said this was.
He photoshopped it to make it look like Edna May, what's her name?
Yeah.
And created a fake trust to show income for the person to whom the house was vested, knowing that man was going to China. And then he told everybody in town that he had murdered that man. But he hadn't, because that man later testified against BH in the civil fraud trial.
Okay, back up for a minute here. There's a guy that goes to China. He somehow comes up with this thing that he's George Harrison's heir, basically, right?
No, not George Harrison's. No. They just
Where's George Harrison come into this?
Well, they looked for a California death certificate, didn't they? So they found that in a Google image search and photoshopped it to make it like Edna Mae Jones was the dead body, not George Harrison, the famous singer.
Okay.
And they used that to create a fake trust, like on legal paper. And I know who did that too. Okay. And they had it notarized. They had a notary on it showing that Edna Mae was this man's great aunt and that he had a trust fund paying him $48,000 a month. And that's how he could afford to own this house on Fairfield Circle.
Go on.
Well, I mean, that was Brian's MO. That's what he did, was fake mortgages for people.
Okay, so he fakes one for himself. This other guy goes to China, right? And then he gets nabbed for this. This is after bashing the wife's teeth in. He gets nabbed for this, right?
Brian never gets nabbed.
There were no repercussions for this, right, Nils?
No, none whatsoever.
Well, for the mortgage fraud.
Well, Marley, the upshot is that men like BH brought this nation to its economic knees in 2008, 2009.
Because they were basically taking out mortgages that they couldn't afford.
And would never repay.
Got it.
While he was in custody, in fact, his much older girlfriend lived in that house for 6 or 7 years rent and mortgage free without paying a
Quote
nickel.
George Harrison's house.
Well, it wasn't vested.
I mean, I get it, but through that whole, we're talking about the same house.
The lender was taking it hard and bloody, okay?
How did the lender not kick her out in 6 or 7 years of not making mortgage payments?
So what was going on in those years? We had a president named Baby Lord Hussein who made it so that you could stay squatting in a property that you did not own, that was vested to a man in China who was purported to be murdered by a man in prison and all this other stuff.
Okay, so then how does she get kicked out of the house? So she's still living in them. She gets kicked out approximately what year is this?
I'm going to say 2015, something. The mortgage lender finally came to its senses sometime after Baby Lord Husseino, took up residence in Martha's Vineyard, right? They sold the house, and finally the attractive older realtor had to move out.
Okay, so where is she now, by the way?
Oh, hard to say. If one were to call BH, he would say that she's up in Santa Barbara and that he visits her every weekend.
Oh, okay. So,
and if you called her, she would say she's in the southeastern United States and has nothing to do with him.
Okay. So at what point does he hook up with the Rose Queen? Is there any overlap or no?
Well, it was complete overlap. He was ostensibly still living with the older realtor at the time that he is dating the woman, the
Rose Queen.
Yes.
Okay, so he's dating the Rose Queen, and is he having any jail stints at the time when he's dating the Rose Queen?
Well, so BH told the Rose Queen that the older woman he was living with was like his retarded sister or something.
No.
Yeah.
Joe, can you corroborate that?
Yes.
Okay.
Not the specifics of it, but that captures the spirit of the thing.
Okay, so anyway, all right, I just want to make sure. So now he's dating the Rose Queen. He somehow wines and dines her, right? Mm-hmm. With the fake suit, the fake everything. All this is happening in Pasadena. The guy's weird as hell to start with. And one of the crazy parts about it, I recall, was the Rose Queen would have in her phone, or he would have in his phone, that would ring and it would say the White House, right?
I seem to recall that. Yeah.
Okay. And the Rose Queen would say, well, obviously he's in politics and very well connected because the White House is calling him.
No.
Nils, you're shaking your head. Okay. So tell us what the real story is.
He convinced her that he was an undercover U.S. Navy SEAL.
Okay.
And former high-ranking federal law enforcement official investigating mortgage fraud in Pasadena.
Okay. But the White House was supposedly calling him. I mean, I might have even been around when one of those calls came in.
Of course. He even rented costumes once and had two guys in Navy uniforms pick him up in a black SUV at her house.
You are kidding me. In the Rose Queen's house. Oh, so he is like the Broadway producer, the actor, the whole situation. Okay. So what is he getting out of this other than the fact that he has a Ford model as a girlfriend? He is taking her for a ride, but she's now the sugar mama?
Well, she doesn't know she is.
Well, what do you mean? So he's stealing from her?
Joe, do you want to tell her?
Well, what do you think? If you have no income and yet you have access to somebody with an income, what do you think was going on?
Okay, well, I think I know what was going on, but Nils is saying she didn't know it. So that's the part I'm trying to get clarification on. What do you mean she didn't know it? If she didn't know it...
She didn't know it.
Okay, so he is siphoning from her accounts.
Bingo. He cleaned her out.
Okay.
A little bit at a time, he cleaned her out, and his crime partners profited.
Okay, and who are his crime partners? I mean, is it the mob? Who are the crime partners?
What if I told you one of them was a cop?
The cop is on the take?
No,
the Pasadena cop?
What if I told you one of them was a cop?
Well, are you telling me that?
Yes.
Is Rose Kennedy a black dress?
And so the cop is a Pasadena cop?
Well, he once was, and now he's with a different agency.
Okay. All right. But why was he giving money to a cop? Like, what was his end game or his strategy or his... I mean, I understand wanting to have a great lifestyle. That makes sense. Why is he giving some of this to cops and other people?
Well, because there was this, and Nils can get more depth into this, but there was this web of intrigue of deals and loans and all kinds of...
A convicted felon cannot place a mortgage or be a broker. So he had to have a clean broker to press things through. And the clean broker was a reserve police officer.
Got it. Okay. So that's why he needed to pay people off, because he couldn't do it himself. Okay. Correct. So he fleeces the Rose Queen, right? And then I forget, why did they actually break up? What was the...
Because he was supposed to be negotiating a loan mod for her.
Yeah.
And the market took it up the ass because of men like him.
Right.
I apologize for being so vulgar.
Yeah.
But that's the truth. So
is a loan modification on her primary residence?
Yes.
Because he's been fleecing her.
Yes.
Okay, so he's fleecing her. He does the loan mod.
She's been giving him some of the mortgage money, and he's been saying, don't give it to the lender. I'll tease the lender with it and get them wet for it, and we'll get this loan mod done. And in the meantime, he's down at Celestino and over at Stony Point and over on the west side and hanging out in his unpaid for suits and doing what he does, trying to hump other women, find new prospects for more loan mods that are never going to take place.
So he's convincing her to give him the mortgage payments, right? And he's going to pay the mortgage.
Right, but it isn't happening, and she's getting notices, and she breaks up with him, and he's supposed to pay her some money back, and they have all of these discussions, and it never takes place. And finally he says to her, if you go out to dinner with me on the west side, we will discuss this, and I'll tell you when and how I'm going to pay you back.
Say that again, Nils.
They go to dinner on the west side with a driver because he's had so many DUIs that he can't be caught driving a car. And then afterwards, she realizes that there is no money forthcoming and tries to kick him out. Mm-hmm. And runs and locks herself in the bedroom. And he kicks the door in, literally, and assaults her over a 24-hour period.
Oh, right. And so then does he get put in jail for that?
He does.
Okay, so he gets put in jail for that. Was the Mexican mafia or the Russian mafia get involved?
Let me explain. It was the Mexican. So he's out on bail again.
Okay.
And San Marino police come to the conclusion that he is an ongoing threat and they're going to violate his prior probation with a no bail hold. And they can't find him.
Right.
So one of the detectives comes to me and asks me for help. Right. And then after a few days, he says, look, if you see Brian, just hook him up. Eventually, we learn where Brian is, me and the detective, and we kick the door in and arrest him.
And he wasn't back at the Langham, was he?
No.
Okay.
Pretty close.
Did he have a new sugar mama? Or was that a hotel?
Sugar mama had fled.
Okay.
And he was at the house vested to the man in China on Fairfield Circle.
Back to George Harrison. Okay, so you get him in jail at this point. This is where the Mexican mafia comes in.
So when we had him in cuffs in front of the house in the driveway, he says, you'll never prove your high charge of rape. Oh. And the detective from San Marino Police Department says, not only can I prove that, I can prove some other things, and I think I can put you in prison for life with your prior felony. And the way this thing looks, this looks like a life case to me. I said, absolutely, Brian, dead bang. And he says, really? And the detective says, yes. And Brian spontaneously vomited and demanded to go to the hospital because he was having a heart attack. Well, he was just faking. He thought he'd wind up in the jail ward of Pasadena's jail, okay, at the Huntington or whatever.
Right.
And so they checked him out at the Huntington, no heart attack, and immediately transported him to Inmate Reception Center in downtown. And so he's in high power at downtown because he lied to the sheriff's department and said he was a former cop. He didn't want to go into general population as a rapist, did he?
No, so then he really gets in trouble, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, if he had gone into general population, somebody might have helped him out with maybe taking some pipe up the ass himself.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
When you're a rapist and you're in general population and you're a soft white boy from Pasadena and you say, well,
yeah,
I'm in here for rape. What do you think that Jose and the brothers do for you?
Okay. So then where does the Mexican mafia get involved?
Okay, so he's in high power, and there's a man in high power, meaning protective custody with him, who has a tattoo on the side of his face and neck and everything, who's older than him, and they're obvious Mexican mafia tattoos. And BH is such a moron, he cannot figure out that this guy is in protective custody because he's a snitch.
Oh, boy. Okay.
So Brian approaches him about having the beauty queen and her children murdered so that there will be no witnesses to anything.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So BH is even smarter than that. The guy from the Mexican mafia says to him, you have to show me how you're going to reward me for doing this. And you have to write me some instructions, like what do they look like? Where do they live? What are the children's names? And Brian writes 38 pages of instructions, like he's writing escrow instructions for himself.
Okay, to the guy in the Mexican mafia to take out the Rose Queen and the kids.
That's right.
All right. So then the snitch. So then what happens?
Big time. The Mexican mafia guy goes to the sheriffs and says, this psychopath you have locked me up with is trying to hire me to murder his victim. It's horrible, and I won't do it. So they removed the Mexican mafia guy to a different module, so BH didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
And like 5 days later, he's in court for like further part of his arraignment or preliminary hearing or something.
Yeah.
And the DA introduces new charges like murder for hire, right? So
and he didn't see this coming.
No, they caught him flat-footed. In fact, I was over at the San Marino Police Department Detective Bureau when BH stiffed a collect call in from the lockup at the Alhambra court.
Oh, boy.
And says to the detective on speakerphone with Nils listening, I'll plead to rape. Please dismiss the murder for hire charge. I did it. They filed the murder for hire charges. They have the felony prelim. The guy with the tattoo on his face comes into court and testifies and identifies BH as the man who hired him and authenticates all 38 pages of instructions.
He authenticated the 38 pages?
Yes.
Okay. So he goes to jail for how long now?
Well, it took them like 3 years to get around to a trial.
So he goes to trial?
In Burbank.
Okay. The Rose Queen testifies or no?
Yes.
Okay, she testifies, and then he goes to jail for how long?
14 years.
And then he gets out.
Ken, the jury did not convict him on the murder for hire because the Mexican mafia guy would not testify at the trial.
Okay. So then he gets out, and now where is he?
He's living at your expense, and Joe's expense, and my expense.
Okay, which is
Orange
where?
County.
In
Irvine. He's living in student housing at Irvine. He's one of their students who's a registered sex offender.
Wait, come on. Okay, Nils, how is he living as a student in Irvine?
You and I are paying for it, darling.
Okay, but yeah, I need you to be specific because the people on the podcast have to understand, what does that mean? You and I are paying for it, and what does it mean he's a student? Joe, you can jump in Irvine. Like,
well, because he's been released.
Right.
And of course, he's on, he's got a report in.
Okay.
There are certain areas, from my understanding, that he has to stay out of the perimeter of within a certain mileage zone.
Okay.
And he winds up there because he could get the best deal for housing or whatever, and he could attend classes.
In Orange County, there all of a sudden is cheap housing? That's the most expensive housing?
What's student housing, right?
That's what I'm saying. How is it student housing? What kind of student is he?
I'm sure he's the best student they've ever had.
He's a law student, from what I understand.
Oh, okay. Well, we missed that. So he's a law student at some school and So Nils, what is he purporting to be?
He tells everybody he talks to that he's attending law school, but really he's just going to UC Irvine and taking every class that he can to justify Department of Corrections paying all of his rent and everything else.
So he is a student and he's getting his student housing. I agree, perhaps not the best use of taxpayer money, but he's a student. He's living in Irvine. Do we know if he has a new sugar mama?
I think he has some strap-on he met at a sports bar in Costa Mesa or something.
And he's how old?
Born in 1968, so probably like 57 now.
Okay. And Joe, when was your last encounter with him?
He calls me every few weeks to tell me how wonderful his life is.
I'll tell you about the last encounter, and I'll tell you about my early encounters.
Okay.
But the last encounter, there was, prior to his second arrest, a restaurant in one Colorado place.
Mm-hmm.
The name escapes me, but it's owned by a very famous restaurateur here in town. Not the brothers, the other guy.
Yeah.
He still owns a very famous restaurant. Anyway, and he had been sort of juiced into this place, and he had commandeered.
Can we say that name or no?
I would say that name, but I can't remember the name.
Not Robert Simon.
But I can't remember the name of the restaurant. Anyway, I was having lunch there with a couple of people one day on the terrace, and he showed up. And he had a few scotches by this time, which I could normally forgive a guy for doing, but at 11:45 a.m.,
Yeah,
anyway.
got it.
But he just kind of hovered. He really didn't say anything. But then very shortly on the heels of that, he called me and said, I need your advice. And he summoned me to that very same bar on, Nils, back me up here, a Saturday morning. Is that about correct? Right after he first opened. So this was again about 11:30. And he asked me point blank. He said, do you think I did it? Meaning the charge of rape. And I said to him, what I think is irrelevant. It doesn't matter what I think.
Well, why did it matter to him what you thought?
I suppose he wanted to absolve himself from this in his own mind. And he thought, because of the years I knew him, certainly as many years as Nils has known him, or you, Marley. But I think he wanted me to say what he wanted to hear. And all I said was, I was very pointedly objective. And I said, it doesn't matter what I think.
Right.
What I think is irrelevant. What you should be worried about is what will the jury think. It doesn't matter what I think.
Right. Okay.
Now, I met him, curiously enough, and I'll need your help on this, at the corner of Raymond and Green Street. There was a bistro there owned by Lud Rennick from the Chronicle. And what was the name of that joint?
It was, Lud Rennick, who was Chronicle fame. And it wasn't owned by Lud Rennick. Wasn't it Robert Simon's father who owned it?
He may have owned a different version of that location years before, but this would have been about circa, I'm going to go about 1995-ish.
Yeah.
Georgia was the name of the manager and also limited partner.
Was it Travinia?
No.
It's a French name.
It is a French, but not to be confused with the little French guy that owned it prior to this.
No.
Anyway, I met him, and that was a go-to watering hole for about 5 years.
Yeah.
Until it kind of, it kind of went out of favor.
Terrific food, though.
It was.
I'm drawing a blank. It was Robert Simon's father. I think they owned Cinnabar, and they owned that.
Pravinia.
No, it wasn't. It was French.
And they had
Fiore, which was around the corner.
No, it was Fleur de Vin.
Well, Fleur de Vin was the French guy. Yeah. And then Lud Rennick got involved in some.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Anyway, but whatever it was.
Food, and it's unfortunately gone now. And you meet this clown, and what does he want from you at this point?
Well, he never really wanted anything, at least initially.
He wanted credibility and access.
I think that describes the spirit of the thing. I think that's what he wanted. And I was always very amused by him, but I was ignorant of anything that was going on for several years.
So you didn't know about the teeth, the wife and the teeth punched out, and you didn't know any of that stuff?
Never knew anything about that until years later.
He's thinking, I'm going to show up at this great Pasadena restaurant with Joe Cornet. Everybody's going to see me. This is going to look like I'm legit.
So 7 years after that, I had to prevent Cornet from beating him up.
Why did that happen?
Well, I won't get into the details, but there was a very funny little temporary loan deal in which I was initially underpaid when the note was coming due.
So you underwrote a loan to somebody.
Yeah.
And somehow he was involved?
Yeah. He kind of brokered the whole thing.
Oh, surprise. Okay, so he's a con man working. So if that's 7 years later, that's why he's at lunch.
That was 7 years later.
So did you ever get paid from the loan?
I did. It took me an additional 6 months or more to get the balance of my funds.
Okay.
Basically without interest.
But only because BH knew that Cornet was going to do something seriously bad to him.
And what was Cornet going to do? Bang him up?
I think what he was concerned with was the idea that there would be some serious prosecution of the case from a purely legal standpoint, because I had documentation for everything. I mean, everything.
Okay. Why would you be involved with a loan with this guy?
Because the loan was sort of a bridge loan to somebody else whom I had known for, at that point, probably about 15 plus years.
Okay.
And I thought, well, I know this guy. I feel sorry for this guy. I want to help him. I didn't know that the recipient of these funds had a alcohol and substance abuse problem.
This being BH or this being somebody else?
The recipient of the loan.
Okay, it was not BH. BH was just brokering that.
Yes, just brokered it.
All right.
Yeah, and I didn't know those circumstances. This gentleman has long since passed away at a very young age, by the way.
Okay.
The recipient of the loan was last seen riding a 10-speed bike around town with a rag on his head.
Okay, and just for the listeners who might inquire, are you in the loan shark business? Do you currently do loans? What are your rates?
You couldn't afford it. If you come to me for money, you couldn't afford it.
Okay.
But the only reason I was even willing to do something like that then was because back in those days, now you're talking late 90s, early 2000s, I was still basically in the commercial real estate world.
Right.
And I was used to funding construction projects, development projects.
Mm-hmm.
I had a couple of partners in Arizona and New Mexico, later in Nevada. And I was used to doing these sort of short-term, I'll fund your project, but I want this on the other end.
Yeah,
I didn't do it all the time because basically when I was in that business, I was basically doing it for me personally.
Yeah.
I very rarely brought in other people's money.
Right,
and that's still the case today with my films or my books. Yeah. I don't like bringing in other people's money.
Right. Okay.
Contemporaneous with this deal with Cornet, BH was dating a former cheerleader who was a waitress at Monty's. This was before the Beauty Queen, but while he was still living with the sugar mama. And he even talked
It wasn't Clippers Christina.
I beg your pardon?
It wasn't Clippers Christina. How many cheerleaders do we have in town?
Her name was Jonelle.
Okay.
And
all right.
So he gets a condo on Orange Grove on a lease to buy from a well-connected homosexual realtor around Pasadena. And BH is out drinking and doing whatever every night, whatever. He got back to the condo on Orange Grove and interrupted his waitress girlfriend servicing two members of the Los Angeles Clippers right on the sofa.
Oh, boy. Okay. All right.
He was upset. For some reason, he was upset.
Okay, but Joe Cornet was not involved in that.
Joe Cornet was there when she threw an ashtray through the back window of his...
Okay, all right.
That was at Monty's Pasadena.
Okay, got it. Right, because the Vanden Plas, that's the Jaguar that he ran in.
One of several.
Okay, got it. Okay, so tying this up in a bow, we've seen con men before. He's kind of old school. How long do you think he's been at this? Do you think he's been a psychopath his whole life?
He started as a bouncer at Maryland's backstreet disco on Lake Avenue back in the 80s and was known to move cocaine to teenagers before he was of age himself. And he was briefly hired as a Pasadena cop and was almost all the way through academy and got fired by Pasadena police for pulling a gun on a couple of kids at Del Taco.
Okay. So
I forgot about that.
Okay. But his primary means of scamming was kind of, he gets a chick as a sugar mama and then he runs these loan scams, right?
Well, he used to do difficult mortgages, and he was like the safety valve for every connected mortgage broker, mortgage lender in the 626 area code. If XYZ Bank couldn't place a loan and you were well connected,
got it,
they would send you to BH, and BH would pull some rabbit out of his ass, and you'd wind up taking it badly on either points or interest or both.
The person who, so it was kind of like if you couldn't get a regular loan, you'd go to him, and then he was before the bridge loan kind of people.
Right. Well, I mean, it was a mortgage, he was a mortgage guy, most of all. If you think of any big names in mortgages around Pasadena, you could know that all of them knew him, even though he was a convicted felon and still sent business to him.
Well, and I can understand that because they want their deals to close.
Yeah. Well, okay,
if you get the deals to close and they've got to, or realtors or whatever, I can absolutely see that. They're kind of like, I don't know how the guy does it, but
they all knew he was a criminal, that he would give them bad loans. He would have things written into the escrow instructions on top of it. So you're paying him 10 grand up front for a mortgage, and he gets 50 grand when the loan closes in the escrow instructions that you don't find out about until you're at signing and you're hard up against a non-performance clause, okay?
Got it.
That was his business model. That's how he robbed hundreds of people.
Okay. Is there an estimate of how much he's stolen with these schemes? Or how many schemes we're talking about of these mortgage kind of schemes?
I got a number from the sheriff's major crimes. In 2011, when we arrested him, they said that within the preceding 10 years, they could document $30 million in bad loans, quote unquote.
Whoa,
okay? $30 million. Okay. That isn't what he took, but that's the defaulted loans, that sort of thing. So you could call it $3 million is what I'd call it. He probably stole that level of money. And he's very proud of the fact that he stole. He makes no bones about stealing. He still tries to claim he did not rape the beauty queen. And he calls the whole thing with the Mexican mafia a joke. But when he found out I was writing a book about my work as a private detective, my professional memoir, he started calling me, like every 3 days, wanting to know what I had written about it.
Okay. And so what is your memoir about?
Well, how about 32 years afield as a private detective in the city of devils? Okay. I mean, I operate out of little Chicago, Pasadena, but I've been all over the world working as a private eye, and it's just this and that. I never give up my clients, never tell on a client. But just this story, that story, what did I learn?
Okay, what's the name of it?
It has no title as yet. I've got an agent in Manhattan trying to sell it.
Okay, so upcoming. So, Joe, what is your net on... Because, yes, BH looks a little odd, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's a little bit hiding in plain sight. I mean, to a certain extent, right? I mean, it looks weird because he's got that weird kind of tick and he's sort of leaned over and with the cigar and stuff. How many of those BHs do you think are kind of roaming around in this kind of society?
I think they're everywhere. I mean, you must understand when I was in the real estate business, how many of those guys I dealt with on a daily basis. There were these kinds of bottom feeders. My father used to tell me about them, and they've always been with us in various different iterations. I mean, it depends on, I guess, what you can most effectively rob and steal at the moment. You must understand the period that we're talking about, confining it to our subject matter here. When he was out and prowling around, there were very little checks and balances in
Right.
the loan biz. And I know a lot of other people that were able to get away with murder, and not literal murder,
Yeah.
but financial murder. And that, of course, to operate that way, there's no way he could operate, or any of these other guys could operate in that way in today's climate.
This is the kind of what all these Netflix documentaries and all this stuff are about, kind of in the sense of how all this stuff got very inflated and then it crashed.
And you could go back in history of crime and see other examples of the bank robber.
Right.
Willie Sutton, John Dillinger. Why were these guys able to get away with this in the 1930s?
Right.
One thing or another, and there's parameters, and then eventually, the law catches up and tighter constrictions and controls are put on things, hopefully.
But Joe, you being in commercial real estate, correct me if I'm wrong, but back in the day, and I'm not saying you dealt with shady people, but I'm saying you certainly knew that they existed.
Sure.
And you're trying to close a deal.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I'm just putting myself, let's pretend I'm a realtor. But if I'm trying to close a deal and it's a huge deal and I'm the realtor and I know I'm going to get a big commission and whatever, and there's somebody who's saying they can do the loan, I mean, there was a place for those people, right?
Well, there was a place for those people. There were also a place for these people. This one individual I will tell you about, and he operated right here in Pasadena, just a few blocks east of where I'm sitting right now. And back in 2000, I want to say 10, I had a number of projects that I had bought, sold. I kept a number of them. And I had
commercial real estate.
Yes, commercial real estate. And I had one that was particularly challenging and ugly and just a big behemoth that I just, it was everything I could do to save my ass to get out of this thing. And very early on, before I enlisted the help of a mutual acquaintance of Nils and myself, who's a genius legal mind, I had heard about these firms that would negotiate you out of your commercial real estate loan, your commercial property. You must remember in those days, tenants, including Class A national credit tenants, were walking out right and left. I had 3 national credit tenants. I'm talking national credit tenants walk out on me in about a 3-month period. Just take down the signs, take up the fixtures, boom, move, and they were gone.
And what year is this approximately?
This would have been the era between 2000 and late 2008. It didn't affect me right away. Right. It was late 2008, definitely 2009, and then early parts of 2010 really got ugly. So I remember I had found a gentleman in town. Yeah. Nils knows who I'm talking about, but his name escapes me. Honestly, it does. Okay. And I went to his comfy, palatial,
stupid bungalows on South Marengo that had been turned into an office.
Yes, he was in a green and green bungalow haven.
Okay.
And I went in there at the appropriate time, and I waited about 10 minutes, and here comes this guy in with a beautifully tailored shirt, big old cufflinks with some sort of inset stones on them, very expensive, Countess Mara tie. He sits down, we talk about, okay, well, what can I do for you? So I explained my situation, the backstory, and he listened. He sat there and he was nodding. And then he said to me, okay, here's what you need to do. Bring me $750,000 and I'll see what we can work out.
$750,000 so that he could help you
get out of a $5 million loan commitment.
Wow. Okay.
So obviously I walked out of that meeting and never came back.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And is this person still alive and kicking?
Unknown.
This one's dead too. Okay.
But you have to understand, Marley, this is not necessarily unique when you talk about our previous gentleman, as being a one-man crime wave. This is true. But I mean, these people to some degree or another have always existed. I mean, there was no shortage of nefarious characters, especially in this city throughout the years. I mean, there were some doozies back in the 60s that really...
Oh, wait a second. Didn't L. Ron Hubbard, didn't he steal somebody's wife?
Jack Parsons' wife, the founder of JPL.
Hubbard stole
Jack Parsons.
Yes, L. Ron Hubbard, founder of Scientology, stole Jack Parsons' wife, founder of JPL, right?
But they were all in this cult together, and they all swapped spouses.
Wait, which cult was this?
It was a sex and Satan thing. Jack Parsons thought that he had met the whore of Babylon when he married her.
Okay.
And that they were going to conceive the Antichrist. And instead, Hubbard ran off with her and with Parsons' manuscript.
Okay.
And Parsons blew himself up in his garage on Orange Grove with some experimental rocket fuel.
Yeah, that's true.
Intentionally?
No.
Okay.
Who knows?
Okay. All right. Okay. There you go. But L. Ron Hubbard stayed married to her, right?
As such, yes.
Okay. And when you say the manuscript, are you saying that ended up being Dianetics or no?
I think it was a template for it, right?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Well, I mean, there have been a lot of characters in Pasadena, some of whom styled themselves religious, like Garner Ted Armstrong in the Worldwide Church of God. You remember Ambassador College and Ambassador Auditorium and all that?
Right.
Went into receivership in 1978 or 79. They had the United States Marshals take over the whole place.
Right. Go on.
In the Dirty Raincoat era, there was a porn theater on Fair Oaks in Old Town.
Back in the good old days when you wanted to see that stuff, you had to go to the movie theater and buy a movie.
Right. And how long ago is that?
Mid-70s. And the owner of the theater also owned the Castle Green. His name was Harold Wensler.
Okay.
And one night in Old Town, he and his wife had picked up the receipts from the theater, and they get braced by two black men with shotguns to rob them, and they beat his head into the sidewalk in front of her.
Oh, my. Okay.
And he died in the Huntington like a week later of sepsis. And so they ruled the cause of death to be natural causes rather than homicide. So in the ensuing probate case, they discovered the reason he wouldn't sell his whole block of buildings to developers was because he was just the straw man. The real owner was the mayor of Pasadena, Don Youkaitis.
This is true.
And what year is this?
1976.
Wow, okay.
The mayor couldn't be seen to have his name on a adult film theater.
Okay, so Joe and Nils, as we kind of wrap this all up, what are some of the latest things you see going on? Like, what are some of the latest ways people are getting fleeced?
My favorite recent crime, and Nils will tell me if I could release the name or not, but there was a gentleman that was found. Well, first of all, his death was reported that tragically he succumbed to his addictions.
Okay.
Except the problem was he was found head first in a drainage grate below the San Rafael Bridge.
And when was this?
2 years ago?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're talking about the drainage ditch being off Suicide Bridge or no?
No, further south. San Rafael Bridge, if I'm correct. Maybe La Loma. I don't know.
La Loma Bridge.
Okay.
And because he was a man of some note in Pasadena, all of the local media, like the Star News, which is fucking pitiful, said that he died of natural causes.
How do you die of natural causes falling off the La Loma Bridge?
No. They never even said that he'd gone off the bridge. They said that he had a sudden onset of cancer and died quickly.
Okay. And what was this gentleman up to? What did I miss about this?
Well, he's dead. But why would the Pasadena Star News and all of the other local media report that it was sudden onset of cancer when it was the sudden onset of the apron of the flood control channel meeting his head?
So why would they do that? What's the theory?
Well, what if he's politically connected?
Okay, so was he?
He was once a high-ranking Pasadena police officer. And after he left the police department, he worked at a very high-profile mortgage company in Pasadena.
It has taken everything I have not to bring that up. So what we're talking about, just for context, for those of you who are listening, so we are in the middle still of the Eaton fires, and which affected dramatically Pasadena, California, and Pasadena. And we had Prince Harry and Meghan Markle doing the tour. God knows what, for what reason. I don't know that they have any connection to Pasadena. I mean, I guess they don't need a connection to Pasadena, but I don't know. Is there a charity foundation handing out money? I don't know what would the...
their star has been on the wane. They need something to resurrect their brand because nobody really gives a damn about them or their opinions. I mean, I guess they would be worthy of their opinion if she were, I don't know, an engineer or a water reservoir expert or something like that. Or
otherwise, it was just a photo op.
Yes, and I know similar stories, and I have people in the Palisades. I have people up here in Eden Canyon.
We all
horrible, tragic,
it's absolutely
awful. And
it couldn't be worse until you. I'm just trying to figure out what, if any of your sister or your ex-wife or anybody has Meghan Markle reached out. I mean, what?
Well, what's she going to say?
So Nils was helping me with security for a very high-profile client in Malibu, and I have been wondering that, and I have, quite frankly, been scared to check because they're right there in the thick of it. And as you know, they've already had 2 fires.
Is yes, because if you've seen the aerials and the drive-bys, it's all gone.
Right past Carbon Canyon.
There was some effect there.
Oh, I've got to check. So, all right, gentlemen, we've covered a lot. Any parting shots, Nils or Joe, regarding the crime wave? What's to come?
Well, I urge everybody out there, particularly right now, to be very careful. There have been a lot of GoFundMe shenanigans with phony baloney GoFundMe pages. Yeah. So be careful, know, what you give money to. Of course, just a personal note.
Yeah.
I love the fact that if you, Gavin Newsom recommended a site that you could go on, and I don't have all my facts on this, but this is what's been reported, that he referred everyone to a site where you can make donations. And it's a donation to Act Blue, which is essentially, they take Nils to help me with the breakdown on this. They give like an X number of percent towards, relief funds to people affected. But the rest of it goes to basically Gavin Newsom. Well, not directly to Gavin, but to Act Blue.
Oh, there's going to be a lot more on this whole water crisis and situation. All right. So, Joe, tell us the name of your book again, what it is, how they can buy it, how to find you.
You could find my book, A Prayer for the Damned and Other Tales of the West. You could find it on barnesandnoble.com. You could find it on Amazon. You can find it in bookstores here and there, specifically Barnes & Noble, so I am told. The easiest is just to get it online. If you'd like a signed copy, send me a return envelope with the postage on it. I'll be happy to sign it for you.
And how can they find you? They can find you on Instagram and send you a DM?
I'm on Instagram at San Rafael Productions, Rafael. And I am on Facebook as Joe Cornet. And I am on X as Joe Cornet.
Okay. Well, make sure to send me the link, please. Email me the link to that excerpt on X so we can include that in the show notes. And I love it. All right, you guys. Well, thank you for participating.
Thank you for having
this crime wave / fire wave we're having here in Pasadena. So everybody, thank you for listening to another episode of Every Day is a Train Wreck. I'm Marley Major, your hostess, conductress, signing off. And if you haven't already, please make sure to follow the show, share it with a friend, rate it 5 stars, and comment. So thank you again. Thanks, Nils. Thanks, Joe.
We'll see you soon.
We will see you soon.